Lately, Apple's been dropping a ton of new products, and each product category has a couple different versions, but some of them are worth upgrading and others not really worth it. Here's everything you need to know about upgrading your Apple products this year. All right, here's how this is gonna work. I'm gonna go through every product category on Apple's website and go through each version of that product, helping you decide which one's the best. Then I'm gonna give you the best full Apple ecosystem you can buy with your money. Let's start with the Vision Pro because that's the easiest and we can just get that out of the way. The Apple Vision Pro is pretty cool and super high tech, but it starts at $3,500, so it's a complete ripoff and an absolute no-go for me. Now the AirPods. We have the AirPods 4, AirPods 4 with noise canceling, AirPods Pro 2, and the AirPods Max. The AirPods 4 are the cheapest AirPods Apple sells right now, and honestly, they're great. With spatial audio, voice isolation to make phone calls better, a built-in AirTag, and they're IP54 water resistant. They're also pressure sensitive, so you can do things like answer phone calls or skip to the next song. But what's really cool is they have sensors to detect if you take the AirPods out of your ear, it will automatically pause for you. Then for $50 more, you get the AirPods 4 with noise canceling, which obviously gives you noise canceling, but it gives you a couple more features like transparency mode to help you hear everything around you, adaptive audio, which enhances voices but cancels out background noise like a vacuum. With that $50, you also get a couple upgrades to the case itself, like a speaker to help you find your AirPods if you lose them, and the ability to use a wireless charger to charge your AirPods case. Unfortunately, it doesn't have MagSafe. You also get the AirPods Pro for that, but at least you can wirelessly charge. Speaking of AirPods Pros, in my opinion, the AirPods Pro 2s are the best earbuds money can buy, but they are pretty pricey at $250. The AirPods Pros look pretty similar to the AirPods 4, but these have a silicone tip on the end with 5 different sizes to choose from to help them fit into your ear perfectly. According to Apple, these AirPods Pros have 2 times better active noise canceling, an hour more of battery life, and it actually charges by MagSafe. This means if you have a MagSafe charger, your AirPods will just snap right onto the charger and start charging. It takes it up another level because you can actually use your Apple Watch charger to charge your AirPods. Not only are these AirPods pressure sensitive, but they're also touch sensitive, which means you can actually swipe up to turn the volume up or swipe down to turn the volume down, which is really helpful because you don't have to take your phone out all the time when you want to turn the volume up or down. A few months ago, Apple actually updated these AirPods, which now allows you to take a hearing test on the AirPods Pro 2. After you take this test, you can use these AirPods as an FDA-approved hearing aid. The AirPods Max look really cool and sound really great, and they're really nice to have in the Apple ecosystem with that auto switching that all AirPods do, but I mean, they're pretty outdated. Apple actually updated the AirPods Max a couple months ago, but all they did was change the lightning connector to a USB-C. That means the technology inside is pretty old. I mean, it still has the H1 chip, which came out in 2019, and these headphones are way too expensive. I'd probably recommend any AirPods except for the AirPods Max because they're just so expensive and outdated. In terms of Apple Watches, Apple gives you 3 Apple Watches to choose from: the Apple Watch SE, Series 10, and Ultra 2. The SE and the Series 10 both have 2 different sizes to choose from, but the Ultra 2 is kind of a one-size-fits-all. Starting with the SE, which comes in 2 different sizes, the 40 and the 44mm. This Apple Watch is really good for someone that doesn't want those extra features. They just want to be able to tell the time and see their notifications from their wrist. The chip inside is a little bit older, so it won't last quite as long, but I still think it's a pretty good deal and it should last a while. It has most of the features that are important to me, like the ability to go underwater up to 50 meters, but there's one big downside that maybe is a deal breaker for me. The Apple Watch SE doesn't have an always-on display, which means you'll either have to raise your wrist or touch the screen in order to see the time. If you're willing to spend a little bit more for an Apple Watch, I think the Series 10 is a great buy. It's not only the thinnest watch, but it's also got the biggest screen ever on an Apple Watch. And it has an always-on wide-angle OLED display, which means you can check the time a lot easier from any angle. The Series 10 comes in 2 sizes as well, the 42 and the 46mm. And comparing it to the SE, the size difference isn't that different, it's more in the bezels, so you won't really tell a difference on your wrist. This watch also has a depth sensor of up to 6 meters, which to me that's not that deep and it's not that helpful, but it does have a water temperature sensor, which I think is a lot more cool. Something that's really cool is this watch actually charges faster than any other Apple Watch, charging from 0 to 80% in only 30 minutes. Then you got the Ultra 2, which is overkill for 99% of people. This is because the watch is made for very extreme conditions. I mean, they're literally advertised using the Ultra as a dive watch when you scuba dive. This is possible since it's rated to go down to 100 meters. And it's got a depth sensor and a water temperature sensor, but the depth sensor is only good for 40 meters. The Ultra 2 has by far the longest battery life of up to 72 hours. But it does take twice as long to charge. It's kind of weird because the Ultra 2 is twice the price as the Series 10, it's much more chunky, and it honestly lacks a couple features like that wide-angled OLED display and the S10 SIP. The Series 10 is definitely a better deal than the Ultra 2, but if you're someone that runs marathons or does extreme activities, the Ultra 2 might be the one for you, because I've heard that people struggle on marathons to get their watch to survive the whole time. Okay, now for Macs. There's 6 different Macs to choose from, so I'll try to make this quick. Currently, there's 4 different desktops and 2 different Macs, and they all have a different M series chip that kind of tells the speed of the computer. As of right now, the iMac and Mac Mini have the M4, the MacBook Pro and Mac Mini have the M4 Pro, and the MacBook Pro has the M4 Max. The MacBook Air has the M2 or M3 chip inside, then the Mac Studio has the M2 Max or M2 Ultra, and the Mac Pro has the M2 Ultra. The best value computer is definitely the Mac Mini. Okay, iPads. I honestly love iPads. I'm kind of like an iPad kid, but as an adult. Every iPad has the same software, USB-C, and they all kind of do the same thing because the software honestly doesn't really take advantage of the crazy speeds on something like the iPad Pro. The iPad Pro is the thinnest Apple product ever made, and it's the only iPad with an OLED display, and it's beautiful. This iPad is also the only iPad with a 120Hz refresh rate and the only iPad with the M4 chip. It also has a Thunderbolt port, so if you're going to be transferring data back and forth, that could be useful for you, I guess. And this iPad's got 4 speakers instead of 2 like all the other iPads. Speaking of other iPads, we got the iPad Air and the 10th Gen iPad, which are honestly pretty similar. The iPad Air is just a little more expensive, a little faster, and has a little bit better display. There are a few differences that make the 10th Gen iPad pretty hard to recommend. For example, the iPad Air has Apple Pencil Pro support, and the 10th Gen iPad has only support for the very inconvenient USB-C Apple Pencil. The iPad Air also comes in 2 different sizes, while the 10th Gen iPad only comes in the 1. And the keyboards that Apple sells for these iPads are different, but that's kind of a personal preference on which one you like best. Then there is one more iPad, the iPad Mini, which it's kind of in its own category, and a lot of people use it for taking notes or just carrying it around since it's so small. Honestly, I think the iPad Air is perfect for everyone. It's not quite as capable as the iPad Pro, but since the software on the iPads limits things so much, I don't even think you'll notice the speed difference when you're watching Netflix or on Google Docs, so just save your money. There's 2 different types of Apple TVs. The Apple TV with Ethernet has a few more features than the regular Apple TV, like obviously an Ethernet port. It also has more storage and Thread support, which is big for HomeKit devices. Then there's 2 different HomePods, the regular HomePod and the HomePod Mini. Both these HomePods have just about the same features like Thread support, a room temperature sensor, and they both sound great. But the bigger HomePod does sound a little bit better and gets quite a bit louder just because it's a little bit bigger. Plus, if you have 2 regular HomePods, you can enable spatial audio, which makes watching movies a lot more immersive. Okay, lastly, the iPhones, which Apple sells 5 different iPhones. The iPhone SE is the cheapest iPhone and looks a lot like the iPhone 6, but rumors say this phone is going to be updated as soon as the end of this month. Then the iPhone 16 and 16 Plus are the same phone, just different sizes. This is the phone I'd recommend to everyone because it comes packed with all the new features like Apple Intelligence and the camera control. And it's just a beautiful phone. The iPhone 16 Pros have a few features that might sway you towards buying it, but they're very specific. Like the 120Hz refresh rate and the third lens, which makes it much better for zoom, so you can get those awesome shots from very far away. If I picked one product from each category to try to save the most amount of money but get the most benefit, here's what I would pick. For the Vision Pro, I don't think I'll ever buy that, it's way too expensive. But for the AirPods, I'd probably pick the cheapest AirPods because they just sound great and they're very functional and they're the cheapest ones. Then as far as Apple Watches, I would get the Series 10 because, well, not having an always on display I think is a deal breaker. Then for a computer, I'd get the Mac Mini because it's the cheapest and it does amazing. I think it's the best bang for your buck by far, so that's what I'm getting. It's the cheapest computer and it's just awesome. Then for the iPad, I would get the iPad Air because I think the iPad Pro is a little bit overkill, but I couldn't stand that USB-C Apple Pencil, so I'm sticking with the iPad Air. Then for TV and home, I'm gonna get the cheapest Apple TV because I don't think you need more storage to watch Netflix, and I'm gonna get my Thread support for my HomePods. Buying 2 HomePod Minis is cheaper than 1 regular HomePod, so that's what I'm gonna do, 2 HomePod Minis. Then I'm getting the iPhone 16 Plus because it's full of features, it's got a bigger screen, and it's a lot cheaper than a Pro model. Apple came out with a lot of products last year, but this year they're rumored to come out with even more products. So if you want to learn about the upcoming products, watch this video.